Hey everyone, I'm Ryan Douglas, the teaching pastor here at the 456. We hope that you are having a great week as we are in week 4 of our The Excellence of Grace series. And this past week we talked about grace for today. I don't know about you, but a lot of times I'm able to kind of think into the future and know, one day Christ is coming back, know that one day everything's going to be reconciled, know that one day I'll stand before God without any spot or wrinkle or any such thing and be before him righteous and holy. And it's easier sometimes for me to think about holiness and grace from that perspective than it is right now, 2021, dealing with life, getting bills paid, being sick, whatever, like just kind of the crud of life, the leaky ceiling and the car that dies and everything that kind of happens at once. And so this past week we talked about, we have enough grace for today. Our theology was this: God's grace is sufficient for today. God's grace is sufficient for today. And so I don't know why it's easier for us to think about God's grace from a spiritual perspective and more difficult to think about God's grace in a tangible day-to-day kind of life perspective. But what I want you to know is that the thing that you failed on today, the thing that you didn't do, it's bedtime now and you're getting ready to go to sleep and you haven't, for whatever reason, you're watching us in bed, eating your bonbons, whatever, right? And so you're doing that right before you go to bed, or you're doing this as part of a community gathering and you didn't read your Bible today and you know full well that it's not gonna happen before you shut your eyes tonight. And there's a little part of you that's like, man, I've been saying for a year, I've been saying for 10 years, I've been saying for 20 years, I'm gonna get this discipline down. And I know that there's a tendency for us to kind of beat ourselves up over all of our shortcomings today, all the things that went wrong, all the things that we feel like we didn't measure up in, all the things, the places where we are aware that we were less than Christ-like. Maybe we didn't show patience to someone we should have shown patience to. Maybe we didn't offer someone else grace. Maybe, right? 100 things. And so what I want you to remember is that not only is your salvation secure and not only is your identity as a holy person secure, I want you to remember that God still loves you. As you go to bed tonight, as you close your eyes and go to sleep, and for me, if I've had a day like I'm describing, then I'm having all sorts of stressful dreams tonight. I have dreams at night when I'm really stressed, like I'm trying to get somewhere and never get there. Or last night, for example, I was so tired when I was going to bed. All night long, I dreamt that I was trying to go to sleep and I couldn't ever get to a bed and I couldn't ever, I don't know, you have dreams like that? And so I just want you to know that you can rest in peace tonight, knowing that God and his mercy and his grace is sufficient to deal with today. Okay? All the things that went wrong today, all the things that didn't measure up to your standard today, God's grace is sufficient for that. And that brought us to our application this past week, which is a similar theme. We've had it a few times over the last year. And it's that we are to rest in God's grace for today. Rest in God's grace. Like, I get overwhelmed by a lot of projects. And sometimes when I have a lot of projects that I need to get done, instead of it really motivating me, it just kind of puts me into this standstill. I just kind of freeze. So I've got 7 paintings that I need to get done for clients. And sometimes when I have the stack gets deeper and deeper like that, instead of it like motivating me, it kind of just freezes me. And I just go, man, I just can't get it all done. I just can't. And so I have to remind myself, take it one bite at a time, take one thing at a time. I don't need to get 7 paintings done today. I need to get 1 painting done today. And so a lot of times, just practically speaking, when we're overwhelmed, we kind of encourage ourselves and go, look, what's the one thing I've got to do today? What I want to do is take it a step further and say, as Christians, when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling like today didn't measure up, instead of saying, I'm just going to take one thing at a time, let's have the thing be, I'm resting in God today. So today's a wash, all right? Good or bad, whether you were successful or not successful, today's over. And we rest in God's grace, and we are grateful for God's grace for today. And we're really grateful that when we wake up in the morning and our feet hit the ground, we can rest in God's grace for tomorrow. Whatever tomorrow throws at us, we're going to be able to endure it because God doesn't cease to be gracious. He's just as gracious as he's ever been. And that brought us to our prayer this past week, which was, God, we praise you for the grace that you've supplied for this moment. for this moment right here, for the things that we're going through right now, for the heartache that we're suffering. Remember, we talked a little bit about 2 Corinthians 12 this past week, the end of chapter 11, the beginning of chapter 12. And Paul, one of the things that he said is that he pleaded with God 3 times that God would remove the thorn from his flesh, and God never did. And what does God say? He says, my grace is sufficient. What? My strength is sufficient. My grace is sufficient in your weakness. Like, it's okay to be weak. It's okay that we didn't measure up today. It's okay that we didn't meet the standard today. It's okay. Why? Because we're not resting in who we are on our own merits. We're resting in the grace of God. We're resting in who Christ is. We're resting in what God has done. And so if you feel weak today, if you feel pathetic today, if you feel like a failure today, you're okay. God's grace covers today. And, we're not saying there's not going to be heartache. We're not saying there's not going to be sickness. We're not saying there's not going to be consequences, but I want you to go to bed tonight praising God, knowing that his grace is sufficient for today, knowing that the God that we serve has kindly lavished grace upon us for this moment, for right now, this very moment you're in, good or bad. The grace of God is at play here. So here are 3 questions I want you to consider. The first question is this: where in your life are you confident? Like, what is it about you that you have a lot of confidence in? What's the skill set that you really think you're good at? What's the, where does your confidence come from? And you can make this a super spiritual answer, but that's not really how I mean the question. Like, where in your life do you find yourself most at ease, most comfortable, most confident in your surroundings, in your actions, whatever? Second question, you can already guess, is where in your life do you struggle in being good enough or being enough? What's the thing that kind of just, I don't know, is the thorn in your flesh, if you will, that just makes you feel like, man, I just can't ever seem to get there. I just can't ever seem to be where I want to be. And then our third question today is this: what daily area, and it may be the thing that you just answered in question 2, but what daily area do you see a need for God's grace? Not future, we're not talking about, hey, you need a need for God's grace for eternity. We know that's done. Like, personally, in this moment, day by day, where are you needing a little bit of awareness of God's grace? And so take some time to think through those things. Join us next week as we wrap up Grace. And man, we love you guys. Look forward to seeing you soon. Have a good week. Bye-bye.